Yeah, it was pretty quick from 0 to 60, maybe like a second.
Wow.
Turns out there's some family history of that as I've now come to know more about my susceptibility to alcohol.
So Nate, can you tell us a little about your background and how you came to the moment of joining Beyond 90, Project 90?
Sure. Well, currently I'm a healthcare consultant, a partner in a healthcare firm. But kind of moving back in history, I started drinking in college. So I did not drink before I went to college. Discovered alcohol early on in college, and then just kind of went haywire with using alcohol during college. Um, that then stayed with me, through grad school, which kind of takes me to, maybe 20 years ago. Still, maybe during the week cut out drinking, but at parties that we would either host or parties that I would go to, getting drunk was the norm. There wasn't any, just having one or two glasses of wine or cocktails or whatever. Continued through into adulthood, marriage with kids. But really, Victoria, over the last 3 to 4 years, the dangerous habit of getting frankly drunk during the week started creeping in more and more. Drinking alone, hiding my drinking or trying to. We can really never hide our alcohol from our family, as we all discover sooner or later from my family. And then, the last 6 months or, the months leading up to the decision to join AFL and P90, just got out of control and was, leading me versus me leading it or controlling alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, so then we arrive at the decision, if I may, to join P90, kind of the episode there, or would you like to?
Mm-hmm. I'd like to just dive into that. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you didn't drink at all in high school. You started in college and you really liked it.
Yeah, it was pretty quick from 0 to 60, maybe like a second.
Wow. Wow.
And, turns out there's some kind of family history of that as I've, now come to know more about, I guess I'll say my susceptibility to alcohol. But yeah, it did not take long for me to enjoy alcohol immensely. And it just, stayed with me really kind of ever since.
Ever since, yeah. I highlight that because I think it's important for people to understand that this can look different for different people. You've heard my story, Nate, that I drank in college, had very few consequences, just some hangovers and, silly experiences. Got married out of college, had my children, barely drank. I thought, because I also have a family history, I thought I had dodged that bullet. And when it came back into my life after the passing of my mother, I was having panic attacks and such. It was very, very slow. It was a very slow descent. And that caused cognitive dissonance because it didn't look like what I thought problem drinkers looked like. I thought, wait. So for our listeners, I think this is an invitation to release preconceptions about what a problem drinker looks like. We can look very, very different. Our experiences may be very different, but the feelings are the same. And then when you grew up and had a family, you did what so many of us do, which is put some boundaries around your drinking. Oh, this is a little too much. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'll just do it on weekends. Except I feel like when people do that, and I did it too, I, manage, budget my days, budget my drinks. What would happen? Tell me if this happened for you. It sounds like it did. Uh, I would squeeze all of my drinking into those drinking approved days. Is that what it was like for you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then slowly, because alcohol can be relentless, the weekends weren't enough. You weren't able to scratch the itch enough on the weekends. And that's when things started getting really sticky and sneaky.
Yeah. For the longest time, any party that we would throw, speaking of, kind of compartmentalizing it to weekends or parties that we would go to, just included a lot of drinking, which, as you kind of mentioned, was normal behavior, and it still is normal and accepted behavior everywhere. Um, but again, a couple years ago, it started creeping in where I found myself filling what I thought was a void, or sometimes that can be described as boredom,
Mm-hmm.
or just like a mental escape. And my solution was alcohol, because I thought, well, I feel great at these parties. I have such a great time. That can probably, you know, give me a better experience doing anything, watching a ball game, whether it be on TV or frankly, one of my kids' sporting events.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just lives in your life rent free and in your head rent free and becomes a solution, right? Or so you think that's a solution. And there I was kind of trapped.
Very, very well put. Yes, as parents and workers, life can, as much as we love our families and we may really enjoy our work, there's a tedium to it. It can become tedious. And so when we have so much fun on the weekends, spot on. It makes sense to say, well, gosh, I love going to my kids' games, or to the ball games, but why not just have a few drinks and elevate this experience? And alcohol loves when we do that. Like, heck yeah, I'll make everything better. Don't you worry.
And then I'm sorry to interrupt you. And then one of the challenges is when you try to stop that and then you go to said event, you feel like you're missing something. Mm-hmm. So it itself is its own kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. And then you're just kind of off to the races and before you know it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as you've learned now through the neuroscience that we teach around in Project 90, you understand now how that happened, because alcohol gives us such a hit of dopamine and serotonin and GABA that it does elevate an experience for the first 30 minutes or so, and then comes some consequences. But it makes sense that then if you go to a game or something like that without it, your brain has stopped creating a normal amount of dopamine because it's become accustomed to the drug. And so ball games feel boring. And you look around you and you see the alcohol and you're like, wow, I know how to make this better. I said I wouldn't drink. And that is exhausting.
Yep. And then you spend all your time thinking about how much you don't want to drink or how much you do want to drink. And you find yourself, or at least I found myself, spending a huge amount of mental energy on the drink or not drink. Did I drink too much? And it's unsustainable, or at least it got that way for me.
It's so much. And again, for our listeners, Nate and I had some different paths. But ultimately, we ended up feeling exactly the same way. And so I'm going to take a guess that many of our listeners are nodding their head right now, saying, "Me too. That's what it's like." And we can't even imagine the freedom that comes when that negotiating and bargaining and rationalizing is no longer an issue.